What's up everybody? Welcome to Rhythm Riddles. My name is August and today I want to talk about 4/4 grooves layered over triplets. What is this exercise and how can you use it to improve your playing? This exercise is pretty challenging, but it has some real practical payoffs. As drummers, we're always working to improve the time feel of our 4/4 groove. I think of this exercise as sort of a resistance training for that groove. In the same way that if you were trying to improve your ability to do push-ups or pull-ups, you might put on a weight vest that makes your body heavier. And when you take it off, suddenly those things are much easier. Layering a 4/4 groove over triplets works in a very similar way. It takes something that's very familiar to you and frames it in a new perspective that makes it kind of difficult. But when you return to the normal way of playing it, all of a sudden it seems much easier. This exercise will also work wonders for your 6/8 time feel. As you'll see, you're going to need to be extremely familiar with all the partials of triplet subdivisions. Okay, let's dive in. In a really basic 4/4 groove, there are going to be alternating quarter notes between a kick drum and a snare drum. This is going to be over a 16th note grid with a hi-hat on the quarter note pulse. Let's see what that sounds like. Now instead of using a grid of 16th notes with a pulse every 4, we're now going to use a grid of 8th note triplets with a pulse every 3 notes. So the grid is going to sound like this. So now we're going to take what was our really basic 4/4 groove and layer those notes, those alternating quarter notes between the kick and snare, over our new triplet pulse. That means that the first kick drum is going to land on the first beat, but the snare drum is going to land 4 beats later, which is going to be on the second partial of the second beat. Then the next kick drum is going to land 4 beats later, which is going to be on the third partial of the third beat. Then the next snare drum is going to land on beat 1 of the next bar. And those are going to continue to bounce back and forth every 4 beats, while there is a pulse of 3 beats happening underneath it. You'll notice that I'm going to be counting out loud on each pulse. This is really important. When you play this exercise, it's easy to get lost in the 4/4-ness of this groove. You have to stay grounded in the triplets. So counting out loud is a way to ground yourself in that rhythm and not let yourself get pulled into the 4/4. So let's hear our 6/8 groove and then the 4/4 layered over and hear the contrast between those two things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. As you can see, when we hit the 4/4 section, the kick and the snare drum are no longer lining up always with the hi-hat. Okay, so now let's flesh out this groove and make it a little more complicated. Instead of having our super basic 4/4 groove, we're going to add another 8th note in the kick drum. It's going to sound like this. Except now we're going to hear it in the context of the triplets. Again, we're going to start with the 6/8 groove to get in that mode, then we're going to move into the new 4/4 time feel. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, now let's add a new layer of complexity. We're going to add some upbeat doubles in the right hand. So in our normal 4/4 time feel, it sounds like this. Okay, now we're going to hear it layered over triplets. Again, starting with 6/8, moving into that new 4/4 groove. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, let's push this idea a little further. So far we've been working with a pretty basic 4/4 groove between the kick and snare. Now we're going to take the kick and add some upbeats and some doubles, make things a little more interesting. Here's what it sounds like as a normal 4/4 groove. Okay, now let's layer that over our triplets. Again, we're going to start with the 6/8 and then bring in our more complicated 4/4 groove. Okay, let's push it to one more level. Now we're going to take our new, more complicated kick snare pattern and add some upbeat doubles in the snare drum. So normally it sounds like this. Okay, again, it's time to layer it in over the triplets. We're going to have 6/8, then our new groove. As you learn these exercises, you'll find that the best way to do it is to really live in triplet world. You don't want to let yourself get pulled into the 4/4 groove too much. This means that you have to get really comfortable with those weird triplet partials. You'll find that as you internalize these rhythms, eventually you'll be able to hear both the triplet groove and the 4/4 at the same time in this sort of weird space in between the two of them. As a drummer, this is really useful to be able to internalize and connect to two time fields simultaneously. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed this rhythm riddle, please like, comment, or subscribe. You can find out more about me at my website, which is linked below, or you can follow me on Instagram. My account is @AugustPappasMusic.